Would you all believe me if I were to tell you that there is a living animal on this planet that can stand up to 11 feet tall, weigh up to 1,500 pounds, and actively hunts humans? I'd like for you to meet the polar bear. But don't worry, you're not going to find them running wild in the Midwest. See, there are more to polar bears than those Coca-Cola bear commercials and Christmas ornaments. My goal here today is to share with you all a little bit of insight into what the Inuits simply refer to as Nanook. I will share with you some of the historical facts about the polar bear, their habitat and how they survive in it, their preying and breeding habits, and what the future may have in store for this wonderful mammal. So, where did they come from? Well, most scientists believe the polar bear evolved a little over 200,000 years ago. Their closest known relatives are the brown and black bears. The polar bear's scientific name is Ursus maritimus, simply meaning sea bear. That term was coined by a high-ranking British naval officer back in 1774. Due to its sub-zero habitat, the polar bear has had to adapt for survival. According to polarbearsinternational.org, polar bears can be found in what are referred to as the 5 polar bear nations. These are Alaska, Canada, Norway, Denmark, and Russia. Areas in the high Arctic can actually remain dark and cold for over 4 months out of the year with an average temperature of only minus 29 degrees Fahrenheit. Fortunately, their bodies are equipped to handle such harsh weather conditions. These are very large mammals whose bodies provide great insulation, as you can see in the listed photo. Adults can range in weight from 775 pounds to 1,500 pounds. Females typically range in weight from 350 pounds to 550 pounds. Males can stand possibly up to 11 feet tall. Females can stand up to 6 feet tall. Now, despite all the harsh weather conditions, you wouldn't believe that polar bears, their internal temperature actually remains at a constant 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. You're probably wondering how this works. Well, they actually have a 4-inch layer of blubber under their skin and 2 extra layers of fur to keep them warm. They also have really tiny ears, which minimize all heat loss. So what do they eat? Well, polar bears spend most of their lives hunting on ice and in the frigid waters of the Arctic Ocean. They tend to hunt for seals and whales, as you can see in the photo I just showed you. They can catch prey by swimming and on land, which makes them a dual threat. They actually have white fur, which helps to blend them in with the snow, so the prey cannot see them. A polar bear's sense of smell is excellent. They can actually smell their prey for up to 20 miles away, and that is actually according to the book Animal Predators, written by Sandra Markle. The ice is used as a platform to scope out their prey, and then they sneak upon them at their least suspecting moment. A polar bear needs to eat about 4 pounds of meat each day. Well, not every day do they catch their prey, so some days they can eat up to 100 pounds of meat just in one day. Polar bears actually have no known predators. Okay? Most attacks on humans occur whenever the human's proximity is close to that of polar bears. This is typically going to occur in hunting camps, weather stations, and small towns. Polar bears are actually the only living mammals that consider humans as prey. Younger polar bears and females are typically the ones who are most likely to attack a human. So, let's talk about their breeding and social patterns. BBC Network writes in 2007 that socially, polar bears are basically solitary. You're really only going to find them in 2 separate kinds of units. You're going to find a mother with her cubs, or you're going to find a couple that is mating. Sometimes, though, you'll find that they will aggregate on a piece of land when there are large sums of prey. Breeding takes place during the months of April and May. Females only breed once every 3 years. Aggression tends to occur between the males, though, during breeding season, and the female typically ends up choosing the strongest bear. A mating polar bear couple will remain for typically a little over a week, mating several times during that time period. According to SeaWorld.org, the total gestation period for a female polar bear is typically about 8 months. The most frequent litter size is 2. Cubs will nurse for 3 to 4 months, and then after about a year or so, they will be able to hunt on their own. Well, The mother is very, very protective of her polar bear cubs. She teaches them how to hunt and all the necessities of life. Although, after about 30 months or so, she's going to be ready to breed again. So she will actually chase off her young in search of a new mate. So, what lies ahead for the polar bears in our future? Polar bears are not quite an endangered species yet, but they are considered to be a threatened species. John Roach writes in a February 2006 issue of National Geographic that the polar bears are federally protected by the Marine Mammal Protection Act of 1972, and this strictly prohibits the hunting of any polar bears by a non-native. The major threat to the polar bear population, though, are climate changes due to global warming. Other threats include pollution, poaching, and industrial disturbances. Scientists estimate that there are typically, right now, about 22,000 to 27,000 living polar bears, which is a number that appears to be declining. As I've shared with you today, there is much more to polar bears than the silly pop culture references that we know. They evolved about 200,000 years ago, but appear to be on the decline due most in part to global warming. Although very few of us will ever have the opportunity to witness a polar bear in its natural habitat, I would encourage you to go to a local zoo and check one of these out, because one day it might just be too late.